Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, Reading Ideas. Now, this is a first for me. I've been tagged! I've been tagged! Oof, no, my ankle's clear. What are you boys doing over there with Trump? What are you playing at? Oh my God. Right, no politics, no politics. Right. So no, I've been tagged. I don't know how this. I don't know how this thing works at all. I kind of do. I think so, but I've never done it. So if I do it wrong, if I upset somebody by not doing it right or whatever, then yeah. It's. I believe it was started by Aaron Read a Book. So good they named it twice. And I've been tagged by Gavin at Genre Books. It's a lovely channel. I really like his atmospheric intro. It's really, really atmospheric, an old thriller. Brilliant. I really ought to get around to putting an intro on mine at some point. But then that'd be professional. That'd make me professional, wouldn't it? Oh my gosh! Right, so it's the chess tag. It's very well constructed. It's years since I played chess. I played it when I was younger. I enjoyed it. And a neighbour here plays it, so I think I really ought to give it a go again. I think that could be something. So there's. It says to go. It's well constructed. Pawn. I did it, didn't I? Pawn, rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, en passant. Things to talk about. Really, really, well constructed. Very well done, Aaron. So now it must be that I have a particular book on my mind quite a bit, and it's a new TV series. Watching it, a daughter's watching it, discussing it. So it kind of sprung to mind. But it sprung to mind, once I got it on the first one, it sprung to mind that it fits every single one. So my first thought was, I'll do it for every one. But no. So I backed away from that. It brought to mind a TV program clip, which I'll snip in. It might make you laugh. So the first category isn't prawns, it's pawn. A book with a lowly character that rises through the ranks. And I immediately thought of Shogun. John Blackthorne, the English character, lands in Japan, and he is then the lowest of the low in a pit, threatened with death. You're nothing. You're below every person in this land, as somebody foreign, somebody dangerous, and he goes from the low of being urinated on in that famous scene by the local samurai running the village, to working his way up to being a Hatamoto samurai with the ear of Toranaga-sama. So I'll give that as my first answer, and then for every category I could have fitted in, but I won't do that. So the next category is Rook, a castle or a tower, or a chariot. So a book with any of those. Now I'm gonna try and put a bit of an interesting take on this. Now, if you read books about castles, it's being in a castle seems to be a bit of a double-edged sword. So the idea of the castle is that you're keeping your enemy out, but the people in the castle know that there's also a sense that it's a prison. You're trapped inside. Your food and your water might run out. You might run out of ammunition. They might breach through the walls. They might throw over dead bodies again and start that bubonic plague all over again. So there's a sense that it's not just keeping the bad guys out, that it's a prison keeping you in. So I'm going to do one of the most famous prison books. One of. I could have done Count of Monte Cristo, but I've not finished it yet. So Papillon. I've not searched out, but I've not seen anybody do a book review of Papillon. Wonderful adventure story book, and the main character is a criminal, and yeah, I'll mention that in a second. But it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful adventure story book. Crazy scenes, you're hoping that he escapes, and so it's fabulous. So please bear in mind I said that. The way my mind works, it kind of picks out a couple of, if there's anything not wrong, but weaknesses of it, and the two things that kind of, the two disappointments, if you like, almost not to do with the book in the sense of it being a book, but apparently, because it's written in the first person as if everything happens to Papillon, and he's a famous person then in France afterwards, living in France. But apparently everything in the book didn't happen to him. It was written originally not in the first person, and he handed it in, and the publisher said, well, this is fabulous, but it will read better if you write it in the first person as if all these adventure stories happen to you. So that's disappointing that it was sold as it's sold that way. And I wouldn't mind, well, I would mind that actually, but what kind of pushes it as well is that it was then used as a bit of a tool in French society and in Western Europe, that incarcerating people and treating these people badly is a bad thing. Now that's fine, but you can take that too far, can't you? There's if you are too lax in your security, if you have police not arresting criminals or releasing them, then that doesn't necessarily work out as a good thing, does it? So yeah, fabulous book, Papillon. I really need to get a move on with these things, don't I? Third category is Night. So a book with an animal, bonus point for a horse. Again, I'm going to try and come up with a bit of an interesting twist. So the animal that I'm going to choose is a falcon, and the book is the Maltese Falcon. So this is a thriller, bit of a detective story, written by Dashiell Hammett, and it's been made into a very famous film. Now, when that happens, it almost kind of puts me off reading the book, as if I've already read it. But I read this book, and it is beautifully written. It really is absolutely beautifully written. So if you like thrillers, detective stories, I really would give the Maltese Falcon a go. Even if you've seen the film, you'll get the outline of the plot. All these characters chasing this, trying to get their hands on the Maltese Falcon. Beautifully acted, the film. But the Maltese Falcon, fabulous book. Fourth category is a book with a religious element. Bonus point if it's a bishop. I'll get a bit of a sidebar. My mind went to the film Alien with the character Bishop, who's the android, and they're all a bit worried about whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. So sidebar. So there's a brief mention of Bishop, but I'm going to go for the book with an interesting religious character, because I love this author, just not much better than Jane Austen, and I'm going to pick Emma and the religious character Mr. Elton. what a comedy character he is. He's social climbing. Uh, yeah, it's fabulous book. I think she's most famous for Pride and Prejudice, but I think Emma is up there as well. So Mr. Elton in Emma as a religious character. Love to hate Mr. Elton. A queen, a strong female character. Now again, I could have done Shogun for each of these. There's loads of strong female characters in there. Probably none more so than Mariko, the translator for John Blackthorne. I won't say, how she shows her strength later on, because, if you haven't seen it. But yeah, very strong female character. But I'm going to go for, can't miss out, an author that I've found, a real strong author, read everything of his, is Hemingway. And I'm going to go for Lady Brett in Fiesta as a strong female character. Strong in her own way. Very strongly written character. Lady Brett in Fiesta. Fabulous book. King, monarch, or ruler. I'm gonna go for, again, could have been Shogun with Toru Nagasama, trying to be Shogun, but I'm gonna go for King Rat. James Clavell. James Clavell. So I won't do Shogun for Everyone by James Clavell, but King Rat, his book that was written from his Second World War experience of being a Japanese prisoner of war, I think from Singapore. And the King, it is a very good book. It's a bit of a turning point in the 20th century after the Second World War, and the King, I don't want to give too much away about the book, but it's a good choice for the title of the book. There's so many connotations, and that you can fit it to the book. The story of the book is based on an English character, be based on him, but the main character of the book is his friend, an American, and this American manages to keep himself fitter than everybody else in the camp, and he's known as the King, and he does that by trading. Now it's difficult to kind of look back in time, but if you read older books, rich people didn't like trade. They looked down on it. Society was different. You had lords and ladies, and they owned people in one way or another. People worked for them. They owned land. They owned estates, and the people were part of their assets, if you like, part of their territory. And then society was, they were the only ones who were educated. So, if you read any old books, there's no mention of the poor. It's just all lords and ladies fighting each other and who's marrying who and what have you. But that changed in the second part of the, that began to change, partly driven by the Industrial Revolution, started in Britain, but of course America followed on. So as it switched from, the book is a kind of a switching from Britain being the dominant power and manners, to it being America and trade, more America dominated, and you get a sense of that in the book. And this English guy who's reserved, been to a good school, and he what can I say? He at first he doesn't like the king. Trade, dear boy, and what have you. He doesn't quite say it like that, but he kind of looks down his nose a little bit at him. But he becomes his translator, and he's then fascinated by this guy, but also fascinated as well in terms of the possibilities in the world, that he doesn't have to be trapped by this reserved English manners and culture, that you can go out and you can grab life, and that this is what the king has done. But there's other connotations as to why he's called King Rat in the book, but that it is a brilliant book. Those are my choices. I hope you'll find some interesting choices in there. Now the en passant bit. So I've got a little bit of mixed feelings on this, because tagging other people, not having done it before, it's kind of, perhaps I need to take more advice from the American character in King Rat rather than the English one. Gavin tagged me from Genre Books, and I just thought that was really kind and nice. But so why should I feel, hang on a second, tagging other people? Right, so I'll mention some other channels, and if they want to take part in the tag, that's obviously completely up to them. But I'll do it as a shout out to them, to check out their channels. So firstly, thanks to Gavin at Genre Books for tagging me. Brilliant. Check out these channels. Libero Paradiso, very enthusiastic. Quaint and Curious Volumes. Aaron Facer, I think it's called. Ginger Bibliophile, she's very enthusiastic. Chrissy Fury, an interesting take on her reading. In Search of Wonder, and someone who's just started Maeve Ever Books. So I'll put those at the bottom. Check those people out. What a nice little community. Happy reading, everybody. I hope you've had some ideas from that.